You know, before we start, let me just say, round of applause to us, guys. I think we did rather well last video. I've, never been one who shied away from sharing his opinion on things. The Black Honest Abe, that's what they used to call me. Oh, actually, that's not true. The first time I ever went to Texas, they couldn't say my name, Dawit Waldajorgis, so instead they simply called me Brother DW. I liked it. The people of Texas, good people. Anyway, last video, I obviously gave my opinion on the Archon quest. I wasn't too hot on it, not a fan, but the most incredible thing happened as a result of me sharing this. People would either agree or disagree, but the greatest part was we all had respectful conversations in the comments section about our opinions. It was phenomenal! I was extra vigilant in the comments section the day the video went live because, you guys don't exactly have a reputation of impressing me. I'll never forget in a video I showed a picture of my foot that was swollen to the size of a golf ball after I fractured it, and the entire comments section was just littered with, but it's nice to see when push comes to shove, we can all put away the bullshit and be real niggas at the end of the day. Yeah, it's great. It's great, man. We are now one step closer to the master plan of discussing politics and religion on this channel. But enough about that. Today we must discuss what happened at the end of Natlan's Archon quest. What exactly happens to Il Capitano? This entire sequence of events between Ronova, the captain, and the Lord of the Night is interesting, but before we get to it, I think it's important we clearly define what Ronova's deal with Xbalanque was and what the rules are. So let's go back and see what was said about this contract. First, from the Lord of the Night's Yehudovich.
Considering its origins, the price of using that power is death.
You're saying mavuika is going to die in this war against the Abyss?
Yes.
I can't just ignore what I saw. That's why I need the Traveler's power. I need the power of a Descender.
Don't forget, Sidlali. Even if it may seem like someone is fated to die, the nature of death and fate are different. Fate indicates what will happen in the future. The time, manner, and place are all predetermined. But death is different. Death is a rule. The ruler of Death's power will allow mavuika to triumph over the Abyss. But she must offer her own life in the process.
Okay, so we got, a lot here. According to the Lord of the Night, she first simply claims that the use of Ronova's power is what made death necessary. Due to mavuika unleashing Ronova's power and Ronova being the shade of death, the ruler of death now requires death in return, as those are the rules. Use Ronova's power, Ronova now wants death. She states mavuika can use Ronova's power to allow mavuika to triumph over the Abyss, but, quote, must offer her own life in the process. This is the sentence I think is a bit misleading, because, as we'll learn, mavuika doesn't have to offer her own life in the process. All that matters is a life is offered in the process, as again, those are the rules. I imagine the Lord of the Night invoked mavuika's name here, as from where she stood in that moment, mavuika was the only possible person who could make the sacrifice. The captain hadn't yet approached the Lord of the Night. Next up, let's hear what Sidlali has to say about the deal.
Natlan must pay the price for mavuika's use of the Ruler of Death's power. That price is death. And only mavuika's death can clear the debt. I had thought that the Ruler of Death might have a change of heart after seeing the people of Natlan come together and fight so bravely, but...
Her statement does, little to clarify the situation, stating Natlan must pay the price, and only mavuika's death can clear the debt. I don't know, the bitch was wrong. Only evidence I have is her very next line states she assumed mavuika's death would be called off because the Ruler of Death would have a change of heart after seeing people come together, but regardless of the Ruler of Death's views, it doesn't matter because the rules call for death. Okay, now let's look at the actual deal made by Ronova and Xbalanque. Primary source, baby.
My domain is death, and its power comes at a great price. The question is, are you prepared to pay?
I need that power. Only a hero can truly wield it, and heroes are not afraid of dying.
No, a fear of death is ingrained in all living things. If the wielder of this power cannot conquer their fear, countless innocent lives will be claimed in their stead. For only then can the price be paid. Those are the rules.
Interesting. Ronova starts out by telling Xbalanque that because her domain is death, using the power comes at a great price. This price is obviously death. Xbalanque says regardless, he wants the power despite knowing the cost, which is his own death. Then Ronova says the big thing, you know. She says if the wielder of her power cannot conquer their fear of death, countless innocent lives will be claimed in their place. Then the price will be paid. Now, this is the first indication we have that the Pyro Archon doesn't necessarily have to be the one to pay the price, and it's entirely contingent on that Pyro Archon being a gigantic pussy. Ronova again follows this up by stating, "Those are the rules." Now let's finally look at the captain's take regarding the deal.
The power that the Pyro Archon used to strike back at the Abyss came from the ruler of death. From what I know of her rules, she will demand death in return.
Thankfully, this one is the most straightforward and perhaps the most important. The Pyro Archon used Renova's power. Ronova now wants death. Those are her rules. Her referring to Ronova. I'll get into why specifying these are Renova's rules could be important later. Now, if you haven't been picking up what I'm putting down with the whole Renova's rules thing, this scene with Citlali moments before the big showdown should make things clearer.
The moment Mavuika used the ruler of death's power, death was demanded in return. Not necessarily as repayment for her aid, but as a rule.
No need to add anything, just gotta reiterate, death is not being demanded as a repayment, but because those are the rules. Unleashing the power of the Shade of Death means that death must now be returned to her. Now let's get to the big showdown.
Mavuika, as the price for using my power, I shall now bear witness to your death.
Now, despite Ronova's phrasing here, what she actually means is because her power was used, someone will die, because again, those are the rules. In this context, Mavuika used her power, and Mavuika is currently the only one who can die. Now, this next scene, I think this is something interesting.
I shall accept Mavuika's sacrifice for the Lord of the Night as her death, and I will bear witness to the very end.
Despite having earlier stated that she's here to witness Mavuika's death, it's now only after some time has passed that Ronova says she'll accept Mavuika's sacrifice for the Lord of the Night. This is odd, because if Mavuika was doomed to die from the beginning, meaning she was the only one who could possibly die, then this wouldn't have been a matter of Ronova accepting or rejecting her death. It wouldn't have mattered in what manner Mavuika dies, only that she does die, because the rules simply demand a death, and because Mavuika's plan to sacrifice herself to the Lord of the Night involves her death, Ronova accepts it because it fulfills her requirements, which is someone just fucking dies. The bitch just wants to see death. She's like the niggas in the comments section of a live leak video, bro. Those some dangerous son bitches walking the face of the earth, by the way. It's one thing to want to watch those videos, but to comment in the comment section, that's a different kind of beast right there entirely.
I was to bear witness to a death, and now the situation is increasingly tenuous.
This scene again is interesting because Ronova says she's simply here to witness a death, but not Mavuika's death. She doesn't specify because again, her rules simply demand a death regardless of whose it is. She then says something very interesting.
If the life of this second individual fails to meet my requirements, I fear I may lose my patience.
Rest assured, his life will hold equal value.
Now this is big in that it feels like a lot of people have been getting tripped up on it, and it's important to keep in mind what we learned earlier. Despite Ronova stating there's a possibility that the life of the second individual may fail to meet her requirements, she doesn't have any personal requirements. She's again simply referring to the rules. The rules just call for a death, and the Lord of the Night knows this, which is why she immediately follows up by stating his life holds equal value. I'd imagine the captain's life and Mavuika's life holds equal value in the eyes of these greater beings because Mavuika and the captain are both humans. Now, as for the captain, his plan is a plan.
Yes, the ley lines will not accept them. But by merging my existence with the Lord of the Night, I can become master of the ley lines and change the rules entirely.
He wants to merge his existence with the Lord of the Night. Let's put aside his goals right now regarding the ley lines because they don't matter within the context. They don't matter within the eyes of Ronova. She doesn't care if a death is beneficial to whomever. She just cares that it happens and she gets to watch. But the captain has other plans because he wants revenge. Ronova cursed him to immortality. Nothing personal, kid, by the way. No reason to get upset. You were just in the way, that's all. After the captain tells Ronova he's immortal, she immediately knows what he's trying to do, and it's this.
If I sacrifice my life for the Lord of the Night, you get the death you desire. But, at the same time, the curse of immortality would negate the very death you seek. Left unresolved, that paradox could uproot the natural order of this world. Even you, great ruler of death, lack the capacity to bear the consequences of that outcome. Your curse is now the tool with which I will overturn the oppression of the gods. This is my challenge to you. Forsake one of your rules. The choice is yours.
Okay, so simple enough. The captain is substituting his death for mavuika. He can do this for two different reasons. One, Ronova already established it doesn't necessarily have to be the Pyro Archon who has to die in her conversation with Xibalanque. And the second, it fulfills her fake requirements, for lack of a better word, which don't really exist. But at the very least, the lives are of equal value, which again, I'm assuming is because they're both human. In Teyvat, a human's life is by far the most important. They are the lives held near and dear to the Creator. They and humans serve a higher purpose on Teyvat. By sacrificing himself to the Lord of the Night, it satisfies Renova's rules and she gets her death. But because the captain bears the curse of immortality, gifted to him by Ronova, he can't actually die. This is the paradox. A paradox so large, he even claims the shade of death cannot deal with it, noting in CN, he says such a paradox would shake the very foundation of the world's principles. These damned Conrans, huh? They love doing that shit. Motherfuckers wonder when I got nuked. So his challenge to her is this. She can either drop the curse of immortality or drop the rule stating death must come as a result of her power being used. One rule must go, and Ronova eventually makes a choice.
Using immortality to fight death. Using my rules against me.
Make your choice. Reject your rules. Or allow me to trigger the paradox.
The curse of immortality must stand. Use it to fulfill your final wish.
Now her choice is interesting. She first and foremost chooses to uphold the curse of immortality, stating it must stand. We later get confirmation it does indeed still exist from Auroron, but at the same time, the captain isn't there. As the Lord of the Night tells us, he's been released from the mortal world, which should indicate he's moved on, but how can this be? How can the captain be dead, but at the same time the curse of immortality still exists? I think the distinction lies in one's life force versus one's life. Earlier, when mavuika wanted to sacrifice herself to the Lord of the Night, she was going to die in that exact moment. However, her life force would have gone on for another 200 to 300 years. With the captain, his life force is forever due to the curse of immortality, and because his life force is forever, his body will forever remain seated in this position, just like Auroron said. His soul, however, has merged with the Lord of the Night, and presumably, after becoming master of the ley lines, he freed the other souls as well. In the final shot of his cutscene, we see some of the souls he's carried with him all thanking him before one final Conran remarks to the captain's soul,
"This time, let's go together."
Yes. Let's go together.
Where are they going? To the ley lines. My friends, the captain's job is done and he's fulfilled his promise. His life force now remains sat atop a throne, granting the Lord of the Night eternal life. Now, this might not be satisfying and could even tread upon the foundational principles of this world, but given the heavenly principles aren't awake, we won't know if this ending is an acceptable one for quite some time. So it could very well be this whole situation is paradoxical, but again, we won't know until the OG awakens. After the quest, a couple of questions have arisen as a result of this scene. The biggest one, why did the ruler of death have to accept the captain's death? Why did she choose to uphold the curse of immortality? I believe both answers can be tied back to one figure, the heavenly principles. You see, it was Ronova's rule that one had to die as a result of her power being used. Why she didn't specify? Who knows? Maybe we're simply expecting too much of her. She is merely just a shade after all, with not as much freedom as we might think. Now, why did she have to uphold the curse of immortality? It's because that curse is a far different kind of rule. This is not a rule made by Ronova. It's a rule being upheld by Ronova. In all likelihood, this rule was decreed by the Primordial, a progenitor god, hailing from beyond the stars. And given she's already upset the heavenly principles once with her rules, she dare not do it again. We at Celestia, we believe in a two-strike system. Strike one, we make you depressed. Strike two, we give you the cinder block shoes, bitch, and throw you off the Golden Gate Bridge.